They don't.
Okay. Okay. I'll leave.
Coverage better. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wa salatu wa salam ala Rasulillahi wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'een. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wahlul uqdatam min lisani yafqahu qawli. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Inshallah, in today's talk about the life of Uthman bin Affan radiallahu an, we will talk about the judiciary institutions in his era, in his Khilafah. Last week, we talked about some of the aspects of the financial institutions in the era of Uthman bin Affan radiallahu an, and that included. Let me go back. Some of the things that were discussed. Okay, so that included some of the things like the jizya that was collected in different areas, and one-fifth of the spoils of war they used to go to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and his family and masakin and the needy and Ibn Sabil, which is the people who are in the traveling and they don't have any means of to access their wealth and stuff like that. So in the time of Abu Bakr and then Umar and in the time of Uthman as well, that part, one-fifth, was put into the Baytul Mal, and it was used on all those categories, plus on top of it to buy the weaponries and all those things for the continuous conquests that were happening in their eras. Now, when it comes to the jizya, we talked about different areas that the jizya was collected from. That included the North Africa or Afriqiya, or which is Tunisia today, Kufa, Qabras or Cyprus, Jarjan, Nishapur, Balkh, and also we talked about the allocation of the lands and the grazing lands in the time of Uthman, and some of the expenditure that was coming from the from that wealth that was collected from different means. Also, that include Kharaj and Ushur. And we talked about Ushur as well. Ushur is not talking about the Ushur itself. Ushur was more about when tax was collected with the exports and imports that were happening at that time. Now, there was a question from last week's talk that why there was a difference that we see that for Tunisia or Afriqiya there was much higher of a jizya collected from compared to Cyprus. It's not only that, actually, if you look at other places as well, even in the time of Umar al-Khattab, when we were discussing his life, we saw that the jizya that was collected from the Ahl Sham was higher than the Yemen. And of course, the Sham, one of the things is Sham was much bigger than the Yemen. Same thing goes for not only that, the wealth that the people had in Sham was much more than the people of the Yemen at that time. And so similarly, we can see Tunisia is, of course, much bigger than Cyprus or Qabras. And that's one aspect of it, of course. And then it is up to the Khalifa in general, when we talk about the jizya to be collected, that is collected in a fair manner, in a just manner, that people are capable of giving that also. It's not that they are not capable and then there's a dhulm going on over the people. Like if you remember one of the incidents in the time of Umar al-Khattab radiallahu anh, when we talked about a blind man, old man, he was begging in the streets. And when Umar saw him, he asked him why he was doing that. And his response was, when he was young, he was able to make the money and give the jizya, and now he doesn't have enough. Hence, he was begging so he can pay the jizya. And when Umar radiallahu anh found out about this aspect, this situation of a poor man, old man, handicapped, so he actually put the verdict out there that not only that this old man we should not be taking the jizya from him, but rather he will be getting a stipend from the treasury or the Baytul Mal. And Umar did not stop there, but he continued to say that go and find others like him, because they are also worthy of similar kind of a treatment from the state. We should not be putting harm and hardships on those people when they were young and they're able to pay those taxes, and when now they are not, rather than they go begging and stuff. They are actually responsibility of the state, and that's the key thing that you will find in all across. So when you talk about the variation that you see, whether it's Tunisia or Cyprus, whether it's Yemen and Sham, it is the issue of the capability of those lands and the people, and hence, and within even the same countries, even, or same, I'll say country, because these are wilayat, these are the provinces in the state. In the Sham, even among them, there was a difference in jizya. The people who were labor class, the jizya was about one dinar. The one who were middle class, the jizya was about 2 dinar. And the one who were rich, affluent ones, it was 4 dinar for them. So it goes by that what kind of a situation of the people, their economic situation, and it was taken accordingly. Okay, so I hope that gives the answer for this as well about Tunisia and Cyprus. And of course, the less number of people in Cyprus compared to Tunisia, and when you add them up, the number becomes bigger.
And they have more wealth too.
I'm not sure exactly it was the more wealth of more people, but amount was definitely the amount that's mentioned. It seemed like that definitely was more wealth. They're wealthier than other places. Yeah. Okay, so when it comes to the judiciary system or the institutions that were in the time of Uthman bin Affan, let's go back to understand first, in the time of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, of course, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam made judgments, and the people who were making judgments in his time, they were doing it according to the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And we have said it many times whenever we talk about sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that is part of the wahi when we say that. So let's be clear about that aspect of it, because then we make that as a source and we build other opinions or ijtihadat which are coming off from the Quran and the Sunnah. So Sunnah is also another form of the wahi, which is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then in the time of Khulafa Rashidin, or the rightly guided Khulafa, Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu anh, Umar al-Khattab, then Uthman and Ali later on as well, what we see is that they are by letter, they were following the Quran and the Sunnah, and they were doing the ijtihad when there was a need for that. So the judiciary was based on that. So there was a continuation of that. So you don't see anything else but the judgments are coming from directly from the Quran and Sunnah, or something which is based off of the Quran and the Sunnah. Now, the one of the importance of era of the rightly guided Khulafa Rashidin actually has two specific things. There are two bases they use. One was adherence to the text of the Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam's era. Number one thing, and following them and persisting in adhering to them. And second, formation of new judiciary bodies or institutions they held. Meaning it was more for bodies to make it formalize the things. Not that the source is other than the Quran and Sunnah, rather how you are making administration in a manner that you are administering the people are coming for judgment. In the beginning, we find that, for example, in the time of Abu Bakr and Umar, judgments were done in the masjid. So people would come, Masjid Nabawi or whichever masjid they're at, they'll come and ask for the judgment over there, and the judgment is gone. While what we see in the time of Uthman bin Affan, they call it as a Darul Qada or courthouses. They were built, as the report mentions, and if the report is sahih, then it means that really the courthouses started off in the time of Uthman bin Affan. Because we know for sure in the time of Abu Bakr and Umar, it was done in the masjid. So now in his time, as one of the report talks about, that says that supported by this report is supported by Ibn Asakir. Ibn Asakir, he said from Abu Salih, the free slave Al-Abbas, who said, Al-Abbas sent me to Uthman and to invite him, and I found him in courthouse. So this statement to say that he found him in the courthouse or Darul Qada, that itself is a sign that there is something other than the masjid where they were making the judgments. And as if this is the correct statement, the correct report, the riwayah, that means the court system or court houses where people would go to get the judgment started off in the time of Uthman bin Affan, because Abu Bakr and Umar, that was very clear, very famous, known things that they used to pass judgments in the masjid. Now, there are some of the very famous judges that existed in the time of Uthman, and this includes Not necessarily this is the exhaustive list, but these are the famous ones. In the time where Zayd bin Thabit radiallahu anh, and some of the reports even go into detail of Zayd bin Thabit was the main judge in his time. Allahu alam, what is the correct one? Because there are some ikhtilaf in these issues of exactly who was the main judge. But Zayd bin Thabit, and he was the judge in Medina. And Zayd bin Thabit radiallahu anh, by the way, he is famous for his judgments, specifically within the judgments or his ijtihadat. He was famous for inheritance. His strong when I call it call in today's terminology SME. He was subject matter expert in inheritance. So similarly, Abu Darda was in Damashq, which is Damascus. Ka'ab bin Sur was in Basra, and Abu Musa al-Ash'ari was he was also in Basra, but he was a governor as well. So that's another thing that you see, that a governor or wali, these are you can be a governor, you can be a khalifa even, and you can be a judge as well. So doing the same job. And Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he was a prophet and he was a ruler and he was a judge. He used to make judgments among the people as well. So it's not you have to have a different body separately to make judgments. You can have a person doing multiple jobs as well. So a wali can be making the judgments, and a khalifa can make judgments as well. And you can find that, and that's the difference I was talking about, that there is difference in reports to talk about whether Uthman was looking over all the main judgments or not, or he was letting the other Sahaba make their own judgments. Okay, so this is a ikhtilaf that we can find in some areas. But the point I'm saying is, you can find a office that like a wali or a khalifa. They can have these offices at the same time. They can make the judgments as well among the people. Because at the end, what happens is when we talk about walis or the khalifa, they can delegate their work as well, because they have their own subject that they are ruling over. But at the same time, you cannot just do the whole job of your own. Hence, Khalifa also have his mu'awinin, which is the assistants. He can have his walis in different provinces. But at the end, its responsibility lies on the neck of the Amir al-Mu'mineen or the Khalifa. But he can delegate the work to the others to make sure that the tasks are done. Okay, the other famous ones in his time was Qadi Shuraih. Qadi Shuraih is one of the very famous qadis that we know of, and he continued to be qadi in the time of Ali bin Abi Talib radiallahu anhu, as well as we know of the famous incident of his when Ali himself was the one who was accused by, not sorry, he's the one whose armor was stolen by a Jewish man, and the case was taken in front of Qadi Shuraih. The famous incident that we are all probably aware of, in which the judgment was actually given in the favor of the Jew instead of Ali bin Abi Talib, even though that belonged to him, but he did not have sufficient witnesses to prove the point that belonged to him. And it went in his favor because armor was in his possession, not in the possession of Ali. And Ali had to prove that if it belonged to him, he had to bring enough witnesses, but he failed at that time. Enough meaning the one that constitute the acceptable witnesses. Okay, then another famous one was Ya'la bin Umayyah in Yemen, and Thumama in Sana'a, and Uthman bin Qais bin Abi al-As, he was in Masr. So these are the famous ones that he had, who are the judges. And in his time, what we find is, so that of course there were judgments were made, and there were opinions adopted in the time of Uthman as well. And that judgments were dealing with things like qisas, for example, or they were ta'zir, there was hudud punishment, ta'zir punishment that were happening in his time. And we'll talk a little bit about that when we talk about the hudud punishment and ta'zir and some of the examples, inshallah, in the coming sections also. But before we will talk about the qisas, let's review and understand the ayah that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu kutiba alaykumul qisas fil qatl. الحر بالحر والعبد بالعبد والأنثى بالأنثى فمن عفي له من أخيه شيء فاتباع بالمعروف وأداء إليه بإحسان ذلك تخفيف من ربكم ورحمة فمن اعتدى بعد ذلك فله عذاب أليم. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala here is reminding us to the believers that it is prescribed, the qisas is prescribed for you in the case of the qatla or the murder. If there is a murder has happened, and of course we're talking about the murder in this case is amadan, meaning intentional, not the one we're talking about is by an accident or retribution is happening, not that kind of the killing, rather murder we're talking about. And for that, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala goes on and says free for free and slave for slave and female for female. But if the killer is forgiven by the brother, when you say brother here, because it said فَمَنْ عُفِيَ لَهُ مِنْ أَخِيهِ, so we're talking about the one who are related to the one who has been killed. In that case, if he has been forgiven, then that's good. Or if he is willing to be taken a diya or blood money, that's allowed. And this is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and this is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had made it lenient, easy for you, and this is a mercy from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But the following ayah is interesting. They say وَلَكُمْ فِي الْقِسَاسِ حَيَاةٌ حَيَاةٌ يَا أُولِي الْأَلْبَابِ لَعَلَّكُمْ تَتَّقُونَ. In the qisas there's life. Yani you're doing a retribution, somebody is getting killed in here, inequality. And Allah is saying there is life for you. Because what happens here is, if you let the killers go and there's no punishment for the killer, you are giving him more encouragement to continue his deed of killing. But by having a capital punishment for a person who is a murderer, who is an assassin, and these kind of things, then you are preventing further acts of killing the others. Hence, you are giving life to the people. You're saving the people here. Now, one of the first, before I go to incident, there's a hadith of Rasulullah ﷺ to be remembered. Rasulullah said, if a person's relatives is killed, as he has choices of two options, either killer may be killed or fidya, or ransom of blood money may be paid. And this hadith is muttafaq alayh. And another hadith says, Rasulullah said that whoever is killed or is wounded has the choice of three things. And if he wants the fourth, then restrain him. He may kill the killer, one, two, forgive him, and third, to take the diya or the blood money, which is the 2 and 3 is a similar way it's mentioned. These are the only options you have. So when we talk about the diya, or if the qisas somebody is looking for, then there's no disagreement that there is a qisas in this case. Okay, so for fuqaha do not disagree on that. Now, they do have, some of them do have some disagreements in the case of the diya in all those cases. But this is not the point of discussion in the life of Uthman. This is a fiqh discussion. If somebody is interested, we can discuss some other time. Now, as far as the incident goes in the time of Uthman, one of the very first case came to him was Ubaidullah bin Umar. Ubaidullah bin Umar was the son of Umar bin Khattab radiallahu anhu. So what happened was when Umar was killed by Fairuz Abu Lulwa, now Abu Lulwa was killed right away. But Ubaidullah, who was the son of Umar bin Khattab radiallahu anhu, he went after and he killed 3 people actually. He killed the daughter of Abu Lulwa, and he killed Hormuzan, and he killed, there was another third person, Junayfa, I believe. Let me make sure the name, I don't mix up with that. Yeah, so Jufaina, sorry. So he killed a Christian man named Jufaina with his sword. So first he went and he killed the daughter, and he killed Jufaina, and he killed Hormuzan as well. Now, he was caught in the time when Umar bin Khattab was still alive, because this happened because Umar stayed alive for another couple of days after he was stabbed by Fairuz Abu Lulwa. Now, he got arrested, and Umar commanded that Ubaidullah should be in prison. His son should be in prison, and so that he might be judged by the Khalifa who came after him. Okay, because he wanted to have the investigation done. He himself was not capable at that point, but even though it's his own son, he said he should be restrained, he should be he should be arrested. Everybody know that he's the one who killed him. Now, kill them to figure out what happened exactly and why he killed those people. So now, when Uthman became the Khalifa and he met the people, and the first case was examined about Ubaidullah. This is the first case that was examined by Uthman bin Affan. This case was waiting for him. The moment he became Khalifa, he has to make a judgment on Ubaidullah, the son of Umar bin Khattab. So Ali said it is not fair to let him off, and he said that he should be executed. Radiallahu anh. Now, some of the Muhajirin say, how can you kill Ubaidullah, the son of Umar, and yesterday his father was killed? So now, so they were saying, Ibn al-As said, Ibn al-As said, O Amir al-Mu'mineen, Allah has spared you from involvement in this incident. It is something that did not happen in your time. So you should not go for it. So leave it alone. So Uthman paid the diya, okay, who had been stained from his, who's been given from his own wealth because he was in charge of them. But they had no heir. So now these two people, when we're talking about Jufaina and the daughter of Fayrouz, they did not have anybody after them. So there is nobody, you cannot say they're asking for the qisas or they're asking for what? So then it's up to the Khalifa now, what Khalifa wants to do. So he paid the diya for Ubaidullah and he let him go. Now, there are other reports that talk about, which is reported by At-Tabari, and he says that actually Qumadban ibn al-Hurmuzan, he forgave Ubaidullah. This is what At-Tabari mentions. And the report goes like this. Abu Mansur said, I heard Qumadban speaking about the killing of his father. So he's talking about his own father's killing. What happened? He said, the Persians in Medina used to spend time together. Fayrouz passed by my father, and he had two-headed dagger with him. As we know, Omar was stabbed by a two-headed dagger. Abu Lulu is his name, Fayrouz, Abu Lulu. So he took it from him, and so his father, Abu Hormuzan, he took it from him and said, what will you do with this in this land? He said, I feel safe with it. So a man saw him, and when Umar was killed, he said, I saw this dagger with Hormuzan, and he was giving it to Fayrouz. Okay? So now here, Hormuzan is involved in this. Now, so Ubaidullah went and killed him. So when Uthman became Khalifa, he called me and gave me the option to retaliate. Then he said, oh, my son, this is your father's killers. You have more right to deal with him than us. Go and kill him. So Uthman said, you have the right. Because this is the job of the state. It's not anybody can go and do whatever they want. So now he said, I took Ubaidullah with me to go, so I can go and kill him for killing Hormuzan. So when he took him out, I said it up to, he said to the people who were around him, he said, is it up to me whether I kill him or not? They said yes. And because all those people around them, they were saying, let him go, forgive him. And he said, is it up to me if I kill him? They said, yes. They said, are you going to prevent me if I try to kill him? They said, no, we are not going to prevent you because you are doing the right thing. Because this is what Islam says about this. So now, then he said, this is interesting. So Qumadban said that then I let him go for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So Qumadban forgave Ubaidullah bin Umar. So now these two reports do not contradict, as a matter of fact. Because the issue of Qumadban was he forgave. He forgave Ubaidullah bin Umar for killing Hormuzan. Now, while the other two, who did not have any inheritors, for them, that the blood money he was going to give, Uthman. But they were not asking, there was nobody to ask for qisas. The only person left was Qumadban. And Qumadban, he forgave Ubaidullah bin Umar radiallahu anh. Hence, Ubaidullah bin Umar radiallahu anh was let go in the time of Uthman bin Affan in this case. So diya was given, and on top of it, Qumadban, he forgave Ubaidullah bin Umar. So it's not the issue of that as if there is some sort of injustice happened in the time of Uthman bin Affan radiallahu anh. Inshallah, next week we'll talk about other aspects of the judiciary in the time of Uthman bin Affan radiallahu anh. That includes how he was dealing with the thieves or the people who have killed somebody, or any of the different kinds. There are many different kinds of issues that happen, and some of the examples to highlight that kind of justice that was provided by Uthman bin Affan in his time, even if it was against his own half brother, like we have talked about Walid bin Uqba bin Mu'ayt, who was his half brother and was involved in drinking at one point, and he was also punished by his Uthman bin Affan radiallahu anh. And I just want to make sure that if by mistake, by slip of a tongue, if I have used the term in English incorrectly, instead of saying half brother, if I said step brother, about Uqba bin Walid bin Al-Walid bin Uqba bin Mu'ayt, he was his half brother. He was a brother from his mother's side. The father was Uqba bin Mu'ayt. Okay, so inshallah we'll continue next week. If there is any questions or comments, I'll try to answer. Otherwise, we'll take the break for Salatul